Hello and welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. Today I'm joining Courtney Kreeber in a collaboration for her 25 Days of Christmas with Courtney and Friends. And this is the second day of the collaboration. Today's theme is embossing folders. So I'll be using this Darice embossing folder and kind of playing around with it to show different techniques that you can use with any embossing folder. And I'll be making these for backgrounds for Christmas cards. This is a Snowflake embossing folder, and each embossing folder has two sides, one that pushes into the paper and one pushes out. So you can either get a raised image or a depression of the image. So I put the paper in the embossing folder so that the snowflakes will be pushed out on the front of the paper. And then I ran it through my Big Shot machine. You could use this background plain, but I'm going to do an emboss resist. So first of all, I'm using my embossing tool to go over it with a powder so that my embossing powder will only stick to where I want it. Next, I'm using my Distress Embossing Dabber from Ranger to go over the snowflakes. And since they're raised, it mostly just sticks to the snowflakes. Next, I'm using my Fawn textured white embossing powder to sprinkle over the snowflakes. And I decided to use this because I thought the textured white would give more of a snowflake effect. There was some excess embossing powder around the snowflakes, so I used a brush and blew on the paper to get rid of it. This took a little bit of extra time. And I'm going to show you a different technique to get the same effect, and whichever one seems less tedious to you is the method I would use. after I got off the extra embossing powder, I used my Wagner heat tool to heat the embossing powder. So I start heating on the bottom, because if you do it all from the top, it'll warp your paper more, and also you might get it too hot and then you might burn your paper. And I don't know if you can see on this video, but you can see when it's done melting, because it usually brightens or turns a little bit different color. This time I'm going to use my embossing folder to do the regular embossing as well as the heat embossing. So first of all, I'm going to go over my powder tool with a piece of paper, and this is the mixed media paper, and I'm going to also put it on my embossing folder. This time I'm using the side that has the images in. And then I'm going to use my Ranger Distress pen, and this is my Distress embossing pen, and then I'm going into the wells of each of the snowflakes and coloring in. Now this part took a little bit more work, but I ended up not having to knock off as much excess of the embossing powder when I went to put the embossing powder on it. I'm doing the heat embossing on this one the same way as I did the other. For the resist part of the technique, I'm using Nuvo Glacier paste, and this is the Frostbite color. And I thought that would look good because it looked kind of like the blue sky possibly. Now, it didn't turn out as blue as I wanted because I had to water it down quite a bit in order for it to resist. But when it dries, it has a really shiny metallic look to it. For another technique, you can rub on an ink pad onto your folder, and I'm just going over the part where the snowflakes are pushed in so that I'm going over the flat surface with the ink pad, and I'm using a Tim Holtz Distress ink for this one. Now I'm just doing a partial embossing, so I'm not putting the whole paper into the folder because I want the bottom part to not have the snowflakes. And then this is how it turns out. And I didn't really like how it kind of has the rubbed images from when I rubbed the ink pad. So then I went over some water and tried to use a brush to smooth it out some. This time I'm using my blending tool to apply the Distress Ink Seedless Preserves to the embossing folder. And otherwise I'm going to do it the same way. I definitely liked how this one turned out better. I embossed the words Merry Christmas with some purple embossing powder in the white space, and then I'm taking a finger dauber to go around the side with some purple. And I started with a different color at first and I didn't like that, and so I went back to the Seedless Preserves to go around the bottom. I'll include a link to Courtney's video in the description below so you can check out her information about embossing folders, and also check out the other videos for the other 25 days of Christmas, and I'll leave the information in the description below. To give it some extra shine, I spread on some Nuvo Glimmer Moonstone paste, and after these card backgrounds dried, I attached them to card bases, and then I added some extra decorations, which I'll show you at the end of the video. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and also like the video. I'll put a link to all the products that I used in this video down below. For the backgrounds that I used the embossed resist technique, I added some Blue Jay images, which are a 3D push-out, or also called European decoupage. And I made a couple videos of how to use those, and I'll link that at the end of the video. I also did some embossed sentiments. I'm sorry the pictures didn't turn out too well. I had to take them outside to get enough light and the sun was setting. On the Distress Ink background, I added a penguin and an igloo from Elizabeth Craft Designs die cuts. And I'll link a video of showing how to do that at the end of this video.